Good evening, everyone. My name is Dean Butterworth. I'm the Parks Outreach and Education Specialist, and welcome to Perspectives. This is possible because of the work of many different groups coming together to organize and present the series for you. So I'd like to acknowledge and thank the North Olympic Library System for their great work in helping us to put on the presentations. Our cooperating association, Discover Your Northwest, for their financial support for the program, and also our friends group, the Friends of Olympic National Park. And the reason why I'm staring at my phone is because they sent me an email to read to you tonight for some of the things that they have coming up. They've got a busy week this week. So the Friends organization is a membership organization. They would love to have you as a member of their organization. So there's information by the refreshments if you'd like to join their organization. There's also an opportunity on Thursday evening to attend their spring membership meeting. It's at the Visitor Center at 6 p.m. And they're going to be speaking. If you don't get enough hiking tonight, you can get more hiking on Thursday evening at their membership meeting. The Olympic Hiking Company will be speaking about recreational opportunities in Olympic National Park. And then this upcoming Saturday, volunteers are needed to spruce up the Visitor Center and entrance sign garden from 9 to 12, also at the Visitor Center here in Port Angeles. So those are some of the great things that the Friends of Olympic National Park does in addition to supporting the Perspectives program. So thank you for coming out this evening on a beautiful first day of spring. The weather is really springing today. It's really beautiful. It's getting me thinking about all of the hiking that I want to do this summer. So we've got a great speaker for you tonight. Craig Romano will be presenting about some of the work that he does, highlighting the trails in the Olympic Peninsula. So with that, I'll turn it over to Craig and allow him to introduce himself to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for coming out this evening. First of all, did anybody hike today? Just me? Oh, two. Okay. Where did you go? Top of Old Mill Road. Okay. Someone else raise their hand? Yes. How? Forest Creek. Okay. And I was at Stripe Peak today. All right. I'm going to say, I have been watching the trail grow for a while, and I've been working on other projects, so I have not been back since they completed it. Let me tell you, I don't know what I put in my original book. I may only give it a 2-star. I think it's a 4-star hike now. It's amazing how much that's changed. So if you have not been there yet, you got to get there. And the next thing, so I've been writing books for over 20 years. I've hiked all over Washington and beyond. Olympics, one of my favorite places. I know 20 years too. Before we get started, anybody new to the area here? It's okay, we're okay. And if you're from California, I love California, so it's okay. Okay, always people like, okay. So that's good. There's only one of you new, so it's going to make more of a challenge for me this evening. Because one of the things I love doing is that I love having people in my audience. Usually these crotchety people have been around, for 100 and something years, and they're like, what does this guy know about the Olympics, And that's what I try to do is that my goal is to show you places you never knew existed. And that's half the fun I love, because I'm not going to really spend much time talking about the popular places because you've already been there, unless you're new. So I'll show. But I love talking about, I'm a native New Englander, and I grew up 5 miles from the Robert Frost farm. So I love talking about the trail less taken and how it makes all the difference, right? And there's so many of them. I know that if you've been hiking in the area, you've been hiking for years, and not just the areas, right across the country, I'm watching the same thing, that in the last 10 years, use has gone up, but in the last 4 years, use has exploded, right? And that's a good thing. I mean, it's our public lands, and it's good to see people out, but it's certainly creating problems as well. And through education and dispersal, we can all be happy. So I'll try to educate a little, Stealth, but I'll try to disperse you too. So if you don't have my book, There's 136 hikes in the book. I'm not going to talk about all 136 of them, but lots of experience. But I'm just going to kind of go through a roundup. We're going to kind of drive around the peninsula. I'm going to show you places. And here's the other thing too. I know you guys on the north. How many of you? There's a southern part of the Olympics. Okay. Good. It's funny. One of my good friends who lives up here, we've done a lot of hiking together. He's lived here his 3 or 4 generations here. And it's like, he's never been some of these places down in the south side. So I'm going to show you some of that stuff. Hopefully it is worth the long drive out there. You know, I mean, Aberdeen's gone through some rough times, but there's good access over there. Okay. So we're going to start down south. All right. And then we're going to work way around the peninsula. We're going to start way south. You know, if you read my books, I love to expand areas. So if you're into geography, geology, I have a very different definition of the Olympics. We're going to start on the Columbia River because, you know, that's where it started. So in Cuyamaca, this is right on the Columbia. There's a national wildlife refuge there. Wonderful place for bird watching, walking around. And also it's one of the few places where you can see the Columbia white-tailed deer. It's an endangered species. Anybody been down there? Only one person. Well, I'll tell you what's cool. Cuyamaca is, I can't remember which name it means smoke on the water. So if there's any Deep Purple fans, that's a good reason just to go down there. So when I kayak there, that's the earworm I have. All right, down at the mouth of the Columbia, some great stuff. And the whole Long Beach Peninsula has some great hikes. And between the southern end and the northern end, very, very different. So we'll start at the southern end. It's one of the few places that far south in Washington, you have headlands. So Cape Disappointment, great place, long history with Lewis and Clark, with a fort that was there, a military fort, and miles of trails. And there's also, because some of these military areas, when the land was withdrawn a long time ago, they weren't logged. So you can get to see some old growth forest in this area too, old growth Sitka spruce. So this is just a couple of hikes. There's actually several hikes in this area. This is North Head. There's a couple of historic lighthouses, including the second oldest lighthouse, I think, in the States in this area. And then beautiful old growth Sitka spruce. On the north end of the Long Beach, it's an entirely different area. And this is, again, I don't know if people realize that, you know, we talk about the Olympic coast, the wild Olympic coast. But if you want to go to the next longest stretch of wild coast on the Washington coastline, it's way down here. You know, over 12 miles of undeveloped coastline. It's National Wildlife Refuge. And what's so cool about this is Ledbetter Point, is that there's no dike or jetty or anything on here. So it does what nature is supposed to do. That thing is shifting. It's moving constantly. It's a nightmare for boating and kayaking. And it's kept, I mean, Willapa Bay, second largest estuary on the West Coast. Number 1 is San Francisco Bay. These are light years apart. Willapa Bay actually still looks like the Willapa Bay of 200 years ago. So that in itself, it's a fascinating area. Who has never been there? Oh man, see, I made my point already. We just started the talk too. What I always interested, you know, I grew up on the East Coast. My very first time I came to Washington was by bicycle. And I came up the coast. This is the first part of Washington I saw, was Pacific County. And what's so cool is that all these years later, it still looks like the Pacific County that I remember. And I can't say that about King County and a lot of other places. So time moves slowly here, and that's worth checking it out alone right there. Like this is it's a nice paved trail that goes through over through Long Beach, the Lewis and Clark Discovery Trail. It's got cool sculptures and everything. Here's another cool thing about this area too, if you haven't been in a while. You know, realtors, they always say, you know, you can't build more land and everything. Well, they're wrong. This beach is growing. Those jetties and all. So what's interesting, if you had a beachfront home there from 100 years ago, you now got about a half mile of dunes to get out to that. But it's created more public access, public lands. So the dune system in here is growing. And that's cool because, you know, I'm trying to give you good news. Instead of always losing land to development, we're actually gaining land here. So Willapa Bay is fascinating. The National Wildlife Refuge was established in the 30s. There's a lot of cool things, some new trails. But there's also Long Island here. And this is very different from the Long Island in New York. What's interesting about this area here is that up until 1989, there was still a unprotected old growth forest tract in here. One of the last coastal old growth. And that was saved. And it's part of this National Wildlife Refuge now. Very difficult to get here. There's no bridge. You have to paddle to get out there. But if you get, there's miles and miles of trails out here. You can camp out here. There's lots of elk. Anybody been out there? Cool. By kayak? Excellent. Yeah, cool. So that's the only hike in my book that has difficult access issues, except for all the washouts. But this is just, this one you're going to need to paddle. This is also Willapa Bay, which is also, look at the size of that cedar. There's not much of these left. And so the Nature Conservancy has really been, in the last, couple decades, really trying to protect this entire watershed here, because so much of the bay is still undeveloped. It's incredible. It's still very, very productive, the Willapa Bay oysters and everything. So again, it's an area that has not seen a lot of development. There's marbled murrelets in the area, again, one of our rare species. Spotted owls, the Nassau Ridge, this whole area. They're really trying to restore this entire watershed here. All right, we're moving farther up, maybe into some more familiar territory. Lake Sylvia, this is interesting. We talk about logging. This was a logging camp. It used to be part of it was a private logging camp. A lot of the logging companies had their own camps for their employees, and it's now a state park. Wonderful place to camp. Old railroad, the old logging railroad. You can hike along the trail here. And then the Montesano City Forest, which abuts it, has miles and miles of trails too. So this is just right outside of town, right in the area. Great place to do in the off season. And I should emphasize, I know this year has been a terrible snow year. We're finally starting to pick up on, but a lot of these low country areas are great. You can hike year round if you want to stay out of the snow. Grays Harbor, this is a Washington Fish and Wildlife property, Johns River. And the first thing you should notice is that it is ADA accessible. And what's interesting about Johns River is one of the few that I know of that was ADA accessible for hunting, for sports people. So I thought that was kind of neat too. You can schlep your rifle under your wheelchair and head on out there. But lots of good elk in that area. And then Bottle Beach, which is on the south side of south side of Grays Harbor, is another great place for bird watching. And so these two places are right next to each other. They're short, they're easy hikes. If you're heading down to Westport, you want to spend a weekend down there, some really good places for wildlife watching. Another one, this is right outside of Hoquiam, the Grays Harbor National Wildlife Refuge. And I remember when this was established in 1990, and I remember driving out to see it when they first established it. It's like, here's the airstrip. It's like, it was at the airport at Bowerman Basin. And they eventually built this great trail, which is all ADA accessible. But I mean, tens of thousands of Dunlins and sandpipers and everything. This is like bird central, twice a year. So you go by the airstrip. It's funny. You park at one of the hangars. You walk on a paved road, and then you find this cool trail. Who loves birds in this audience? All right, that's what I expect. Dungeon that's spitting it. Who has been here? I want to see again, you bird watchers. What's going on? So we got to check out some different areas here. Excuse me. All right, again in the South. So much of the South flank of the Olympics was heavily harvested. And I mean, one of my dreams would be that we get enough. We were talking about this earlier. Someone who runs on public lands. We need people that run on public lands. And I see so much opportunity here for restoring ecosystems. Amazing area, because a lot of it was logged pretty heavily. There's little tracks and patches of old growth, but we've lost. There used to be trails all over. If you've ever have Robert Wood's old books and everything, and you just read about all these trails that used to exist, they're all gone. They're all been logged over. And there's so much opportunity here to rebuild a lot of this on the south flank. So I'm going to show you bits and pieces of trails that you can go to. And I'm hoping that, within my lifetime, which is not much left, things are moving on, that more miles of trails happen here. So Wynoochee Lake was interesting. So this was on the Wynoochee River. It was dammed in the 1950s, I believe, 56 as flood control. And there's a 16-mile trail that goes all around the lake. And you'll go through patches of old growth, and there's some waterfalls, and there's some camping in that area. Anybody been over there? Okay, good. You know, years ago it was tough. It was a long dirt road, but it's a paved road now to get there. So it's much easier. So definitely check it out. So if you look at that scene, it looks pretty natural, pretty, you know, I mean, you see the cut there, but there's some interesting, I know I avoided that area for years. And when I started exploring it, I was amazed at what's still there. And this is another part of that area, the Church Creek and Satsip Lakes. So Church Creek was another, the trail was much longer and it was falling to oblivion. And the Olympia Mountaineers decided to reopen this trail and volunteers. And they've done a good job. It's about 4 miles of trails. You go up over this ridge and you drop down into the Satsip Lakes. And these lakes are fascinating. They're ponds, really. But there's no outlets. Everything, the southern part of the Olympics are fascinating. There's all these subterranean, the rivers disappear and everything. Talk about amphibian central. I mean, these things are just incubators of amphibians. And I was out on, it's at Stripe Peak, and there's all these wetlands out there. You should hear the frog song right now. So things, the first day of spring and love is already in the air. I mean, it's out there. But you got to check out some of the trees here are amazing. Some incredible old growth forests in this area. So again, some of the remnants of still here when, you know, the O'Neill expedition was coming through on the other side on the valley, seeing what they saw. Wynoochee Pass. So this is so Sundown Lake is fascinating. So there's several ways you can get there. The shortest way to get there is Wynoochee Pass. And again, you got to go through all this old growth and cross a lot of difficult creeks and everything. And you're going to come into this neat lake. And this is the beginning or the end, if you like, of the Six Ridge Traverse, which is out of my day hiking. It's in my backpacking book. That's another trail that's we almost lost that. And because of WTA and the Park Service worked together to reopen that trail. So again, just amazing territory. You're not going to see a lot of people in these areas. All these places I was showing you here too are not crowded at all. I've been to Sundown Lake 3 times and I've never run into anybody there. Pine Lake. This is also on the south side, and we can access this more from the Shelton side, so you don't have to drive all the way to the other side. And Pine Lake's kind of interesting. The first time I went there too, I do have a 2-year forestry degree among some of my studies without history. And I know the difference between a pine, a fir, a cedar, and a hemlock, okay? I know a lot of people don't. They call everything pines. It drives me nuts. There are no pines there. I couldn't find any. There's 0 pines. So that leads me to think 2 things. One, the person who named it Pine Lake doesn't know the difference between a pine and a cedar and a hemlock. Or there used to be a lot of Western white pine back in the old day, and we've lost a lot of that, you know, for disease and everything. So maybe the forest has changed, and that's happening. I know we talk about climate change now, but things are always changing. Whether, you know, man has had his hand destroying things and changing things, or it just happens. I know where I grew up back east, the forests now are all oaks and pines, but I look at pictures 100 years ago, there's chestnuts, there's elms, things have changed. So 100 years from now, it's going to be different again with the change. So maybe there'll be palmetto tree. I hope not, but there are no pines there. What also is cool about this was an area that was being logged a lot. The road, it was the Forest Service decommissioned the road. And, you know, usually when they decommission a road, they just put some berms in there and like, go hike it. And it's not very fun. They actually did a nice job on this, the aesthetics. They curved it out, and it's forming a trail. It's really nice. And then when you get to Pine Lake, they didn't cut all the way there. There's actual old growth there. So it's only a 3.5 mile hike. It's not a very long one. Nobody goes there. And I keep telling people to go there. Has anybody been there? Like I said, nobody goes there. So check it out. You guys have made my job easy tonight. We haven't even got through the program. All right. South Fork of the Skoke. This is one of the more popular hikes down in this area. It's open to mountain bikes too. And I mentioned in my book, the book's not written for cyclists, but I mentioned there's other uses and things like that. It's been truncated. You can do it, it used to be very, very long all the way up, but it's still a fairly long hike. You can do this, the lower part, you can usually hike year round. There's some fords. The upper part, you got to wait till the snow melts. The upper part's fascinating. It goes into the national park. There's all kinds of neat meadows and amazing Alaska yellow cedar trees, some incredible stuff up there, little vernal pools and all kinds of stuff. And it's also one of the accesses to Six Ridge if you're interested in that. And then Dry Creek. This is over by Lake Cushman. on the other side. And another one, well, first of all, it's not dry, it's not a dry creek. So most people only hike the first 3 miles because then you have to ford Dry Creek, which could be up to your knees. So I don't know where the Dry Creek came on that one. But if you do get beyond that, those trees are what you're going to see. It's, again, remnant of the old growth down there. There's some amazing Douglas firs and western red cedars there. And you can go up and over. And there are some good views looking down. And again, you won't see anybody here. Okay. So, but I have to, it's interesting. So the last time I did this trail, I was hiking and there's these two older hikers, I should say. Now you'll get a kick out of it. And I started talking, I immediately realized, oh my God, that's Branka Sundström, because I interviewed her. And if you know who Branka was amazing. She just passed away last year. She's a Holocaust survivor. She was the oldest woman to climb Mount Rainier. She's done it, I forget how many times, in her 70s. And so I had interviewed her years ago, and I'm looking at her now, I go, Branka, how old are you now? She goes, I'm 90. And then her friend who's hiking next to her goes, I'm 92. And I thought, 90 also? Or no, 92. So again, talk about inspirations. And they were out there on Dry Creek. So that's like a memorial. Just amazing people. Just hiking is good for you, okay? Big Creek, this is a really nice trail. It doesn't go anywhere. It just goes around in a circle. I call it's a Zen trail, and a lot of water, a lot of running water. And the Mount Rose trail crew, there's no Mount Rose people here, right? They're more farther south. They're characters. I've met a bunch of them. I mean, characters is a good way. I say it with affection. They take pride. You should see who's been on this trail. Okay, a few people. It's wonderful. It just goes to all the flowing water and waterfalls, and they just love building. I think it's all retired engineers. It gives them an excuse to build bridges. They built all these elaborate bridges. So definitely check it out. It's like 4.5 mile loop. And then if you want more, you can hike up Mount Eleanor from the bottom of this thing here. So really cool. And you can camp. There's a really nice national forest campground there. And there's Mount Eleanor. You can go all the way up. And this is one of the ones I'm not going to spend much time talking about because everybody's been at Mount Eleanor, right? No? It is a good hike. It's one of my 100 classics. But it's a difficult hike. It's another one of those things. People die on it every year. They go up the avalanche chutes and everything. So if you are thinking about doing it, wait till the snow melts. But what a lot of people do, they access the upper part. The lower part, which I always access, and it gives you a much longer hike. It's amazing old growth of rhododendrons, and you won't see anybody on that lower part. Mount Rose. This is a nice alternative to Eleanor. And this is another one. If you want to work out, this is going to give it. You're going to start right at about 500 feet, and you're going to get up to 4,000 feet. And the trail goes like that. So it's a great workout. And some beautiful, beautiful Alaska yellow cedars up there, and great views down at Lake Cushman. And then the North Fork of the Skoke. So it's a staircase area, very, very popular area. But again, what I love about this trail is that you can get in a long way without any work. I mean, it just goes, 11 miles, and you've only climbed a few hundred feet. Also, because it's low, you can backpack and camp in there, early, like now, if you want to go for an overnighter. And it's such great access. It's just a lot of history there with the O'Neill expedition, followed up that area. So it's a long haul from here. It's a lot closer to Olympia. If I was in Olympia, everybody's hands would be up right now. But it's definitely worth checking out if you haven't been there yet. And then Wagon Wheel. I love this one. So many people will see that sign. Oh, Wagon Wheel, 2.9 miles. And it says very steep. I mean, they should be very, 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 very steep. I can't tell you how many times I've come down that thing watching people coming up like they're going to have a cardiac arrest, and they've only gone up half the way, and they have no idea because they're thinking, well, Green Lake in Seattle is 3 miles. This thing is brutal. I always see a busted axle on wagon. But then if you get up to the top, because the lake is nothing, it's just a hole. That's it. You need to go farther. So if you got any more, you need to climb another 800 feet and go up on the ridge, and then you're going to get these great views of parts of the Olympic that nobody knows exists. So you're going to see like the Wonder Mountain, all these places, like you've only read about these places. It truly is an area that it's off the beaten path. And then Flapjack Lakes is one of the more popular ones. Now, I call these day hikes, and I mean, people know I'm an ultra runner, so my definition of a day hike is a little different. But in the book, basically most of the stuff I consider between 6 and 10 miles round trip. There's stuff shorter, but I do have some exceptions. I have some 16-mile round trips. They make good day hikes, if you know, straw hike, but they also make good overnighters too. So you can turn a lot of these into overnighters. And I talk about the campsites. And this is a popular place to overnight. And because it's popular, you need a permit. That if you are a strong hiker, you don't need a permit. You can go up there during the day. So really nice, a nice area here. So it's something a lot easier, just a couple miles. That's my wife and my son when he was only a few months old. I had him out on the trail early. So this is Living Legacy Trail. This is a cool trail, a couple miles. It's very close to the Lena Lakes area. And what's neat about this, you're going to go by a CCC cabin that is still rented out. You can rent that out. So lots of history in this area. You get to see the Hamahama River. You get to hike along it because a lot of areas you don't have any access to it. Watch the dippers flying in there. Really nice hike. And again, surprisingly, it starts from a campground. Doesn't get a lot of use. Everybody's at Lena Lake. Everybody. You know, this is probably going to be one of the most unpopular things I'm going to say tonight. I don't get Lena Lake. Anybody with me? Thank you. What is it? Why is it so? Yeah, thank you. It's funny. In my original book, I was like part of my East Coast sarcasm. I mean, it was really, people have called me on it. It's like, Romano, ease up. So I actually eased up on the second one, made it a little nicer. Trying to find the nice things about it, but it's okay. But the upper Lena Lake is where it's at. That's spectacular, and it's tough. Upper Lena was never built of fish as a trail. So if you're from back east like I am, trails go like that. It's going to remind you, you're going to be on bedrock, you're going to be grabbing roots and everything. But that keeps the crowds away. You can spend the night up here too. It's in the national park. The upper is spectacular. It really is. So if you've never been there, it's worth checking out. And then you can keep going. There's all kinds of routes you can do and everything up there. It's really beautiful in the fall. The blueberry, the carpets of blueberry and all up there. So some other areas, Lena Lake is super crowded. You want to get away from the crowds. This is just a couple miles in the same valley. Check out Elk Lakes and Jefferson Ridge. And these are parts of trails, again, that used to go. You can read Robert Wood's books about all these long trails. These are just little remnants left, but they're nice remnants. And a fire came through here a few years ago. There's a couple of boneheads that were, what am I trying to say? Poaching maples for guitars. They were caught. They were prosecuted. They started a fire, burning a yellow jacket nest. The bad news, there's a lot of bad news about it. The good news is that the fire didn't really scorch it. It was more of a matrix fire, what a fire should do. So there's still lots, because there's remnant old growth here, and a lot of the older trees survive. That's good news. So definitely check this out. Jefferson Ridge got a little bit more torch, a little tougher. I know there's some groups trying to open that up. Used to be a fire lookout out there. So if you're one of those fire lookout hounds, that's one of the ones you're going to want to hit. But when you get to the top, one of the neat things, that picture on the left, you can look out, you can see Lena Lake from up above. It's one of the few places I know you can actually look down. And Lena Lake looks pretty from up above, because I know it's going on down below, but it looks nice from above. So check these out too. And again, amphibian heaven. I mean, just all kinds of stuff in those waters. And another really cool lake in the area, Lake of the Angels. Same thing. You can see the trail there as a part of head wall. If you've done any hiking in the Adirondacks, the Appalachians, you will feel very comfortable on that rock and everything. But once you get up to the top there, that's definitely not going to look like the Adirondacks. Just amazing area. Really, really beautiful. Mount Jupiter, another great one. This one's always tough to get to too, because it starts on private land. There's loggings on, loggings off. It's always tough. So you may have to mountain bike the road to get up there. If it's open, they close the road. But check, when they do open it, it's an incredible hike. It really is. And what's cool about Jupiter, in Seattle, you look out, Jupiter looks prominent because it's so far to the east. It looks like one of the big guys. But because it's so far east in the Olympics, you're right over Hood Canal. It's incredible, the views up there. So it's a tough hike. You're doing ups and downs, and there's no water on it. You won't see anybody. That's the good news. And the views are just spectacular. Who has been up Jupiter? Yeah, it's got to get there. It's an incredible hike. All right, down below, much easier hike, Dosey Wallop State Park. So a lot of people camp at Dosey Wallops, and a lot of elk hang out there. It's a great park, and people clam there too, right? But there's about 4 or 5 miles of trails in the park too, and including a neat history. There's an old logging railroad grade, for the steam donkey. There's a old reservoir that they use for the steam donkeys and everything. So there's some really cool history there. And again, if you're camping there, it's a great place just to go for a stroll. Really, really nice in the fall. There are lots of big leaf maples in the area, so it gets it pretty golden. And then we were talking Lake Constance earlier. Yeah. So this is a tough one. But there's only 2 tough sections to this part, the first half and the second half. I think in my original book, I rate everything subjectively 1 to 5 by steepness, 5 being, I think I gave this one a 6 because it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. It's a climber's route, but enough people hike it. So to go up Constance is climb, but hikers go. Who has been up there? Yeah, it's spectacular. It really is, but you're gonna have to work for it. It's like this. It's crazy. And then it burned. Then it burned a few years ago. It made it even worse, and then the road washed out. So now you've got a mountain bike to get to the trailhead start. So you got to really want this. But look at that view when you get there. It's just incredible. The view on the right, that's burned now. That sign's gone. You'll see no sign now. It's just stumps. But the lake still looks good. It did not burn in the basin. And if it's just too much, you can just look at the pretty pictures. Mount Walker. So I drove by this yesterday on my way to Elbow Creek, and I encountered one other hiker at Elbow Creek because everybody was at Mount Walker yesterday. Mount Walker is a great hike. I loved it in the wintertime. There's a little bit of snow. You can snowshoe up there or ski it in the road. It's a great hike. And you try to do it before the road's open because then there's going to be even more people up there. But in another 2 months, the rhododendrons. And I always like to talk about, the Washington State flower is the Pacific rhododendron, but it only grows in like less than 10% of the state. So it wasn't really a representative flower. And here's the good news. You live in the zone where it grows. I mean, pretty much from the northeast part of the Olympics all the way down is rhododendron country. And they're going to be starting. Matter of fact, Elbow Creek, which is right across from us, it's all road. I mean, it's a forested hike, doesn't have roadies. Wait till the roadies are out. Lower Big Quill is another one. Lots of rhododendrons. And this was the original way to get to Marmot Pass, right? Way back. It started, and then it's been truncated. And this trail doesn't get as much use. It's open. It's one of the few that's open to mountain bikes in the area. There's some good campsites in there. Some remnant old growth. It's a great hike on a rainy day. It's a great hike for spring. Who has not been up Marmot Pass? Well, we almost had the full house on this one. This is one of the most popular hikes in the Olympics. It is one of the most spectacular hikes in the Olympics. It's one of my 100 classics. I've been up there by myself. You have to go on a day like this when the weather's really bad, but maybe a rainbow will show up. It really is incredible. Though I've never seen any marmots up there, though. I've seen marmot holes up there, but there's a few. There's better places than marmots there. But great hike. You get it for 5.5 miles one way. You get it all: old growth, waterfalls, views. So if you haven't done it, and then if you want more, you can go up Buckhorn. You can go down to, you can go Iron Mountain, do all these loops and everything. It's just a great hike. So Tunnel Creek is a good alternative, though, if you want to stay away from the crowds that are on Townsend and on Marmot. So this is a nice hike. It's another one of those hikes. It doesn't really go anywhere. Doesn't go to a mountain. There's a couple small lakes, but again, it's great. It's lots of rhododendrons. It follows a really nice creek. And you can go up and over all the way down. If you're going to do it as a one-way, you want to come out the Dosey Wallops way because it drops over 4,400 feet that way. Anybody have done the whole thing? I'm the only one? Check out. But you want to make sure you do it as a one-way and have somebody waiting for you at Dosey Wallops. I've got all the information from all these hikes. I want to get you guys off of Mount Angeles, okay? And I know it's there. How about Mount Townsend? That's a great hike. And it's one of the, for a 6,000 foot peak, it's well, it usually melts out pretty early, which is neat. It's in that rain shadow, melts out 3 different ways you can get up there. They're all great. You got the alpine tundra. Do I need to say anything else about it? You all been up there? How about the Silver Lakes? Yeah, there's a couple ways you can do that. There's the official way, which is harder. And then there's the bootleg way, which is kind of official now. Or if you really want a great hike, make a loop. This is cool. You can go up Dirty Face Ridge over Townsend, Silver Lake. You could do like an 11-mile loop. It's really nice. I talk about that. Tubal Cain is a great hike. And the roadies, those are Olympic bellflower over there. Olympic bellflower? Yeah. Which is one of the endemics. I haven't talked about the Olympics in a while. Does that sound right? Piper's bellflower. Thank you. Thank you. I know it's been a while. My mind has been elsewhere. It's one of the endemics in this area, which is really neat because the Olympics are an island, right? A biological island. So there's lots of endemics. And almost all those grow here in the northeast part of the Olympic Peninsula, which is neat. So this is a great place to see that. There's a lot of cool history too. Tubal Cain is actually, the mining claim is still valid in that area. There's plane wreck in there. Tull Canyon used to be a mining town. There's all kinds of ruins and remnants, haunting, lots of, anybody needs to write a book about the haunted Olympic, because there's a lot of interesting stories out there. I will not camp near the Chilean or the Norwegian monuments on the coast. No way. Alfredo and Lars are not visiting me in the middle of the night. It's too creepy out there. Baldy's really cool. This is another really, really tough hike. It was a fire line that was built here. It just goes straight up like that. It's one of the best for views, which you get. And then again, that dry area, it's cinquefoil. You're getting lots of cool flowers. It usually melts out early in the year. It's a great hike if you want a good workout to get in there. And your quads will burn on this one. Royal Basin, they'll burn not as much, but it's a longer hike. This is a great hike too. And to really enjoy Royal Basin, you got to keep going up to what I call the upper Royal Basin. There's a couple of small lakes up there and everything. And again, for most people, it might be too much. You can camp up there, get a permit with the national park and camp up there, but it makes a good trail run or a good long hike. And again, it's in that northeast corner too. So the weather's usually a lot better over there. Mellow, easy hike, Gray Wolf. Of course, this has been, washed out years ago, so you have to to do the entire Gray Wolf. Now you got to drop down from Deer. But the part through the National Forest is really mellow. It's nice. There's some nice old growth in there. It's a popular hike. Really easy to get to. Deer Ridge. So this is another one that melts out fairly early in the year. And lots of good flowers. Again, that whole area, you can access it from Deer Mountain or from Slab Camp Trailhead. Three Forks, if you really want a good workout, start at Deer and hike all the way down to Three Forks. And then come on. I'll tell you, I did the Cameron Gray Wolf Loop a couple of years. Oh, it's spectacular. It's in my backpacking book. But the worst thing about that is having to finish on a 3,000-foot climb, coming out. But I'll tell you the best thing about that, we did 3 days in September, encountering 4 other people. So again, there are a lot of places to run, but this is cool. You get down there with 3 of the rivers, Cameron, Gray Wolf. It's spectacular. And especially early in the summer, it's roaring down there. All right, let's go a little mellower towards the coast. This is a Jefferson County Park, Indian Island. About 90% of Indian Island is owned by the Navy. The 10% strip south of it is county owned, and it's some of the most beautiful beaches on the sound side. You get views of Rainier, just a couple miles of just gorgeous sandy beaches. If you have not been over here, it's really nice. Miller Peninsula. Of course, this one, fascinating history too. We're talking about how it takes, so about 10 years ago, the state of Oregon decided for their legacy, they're going to build a legacy park, one a year. And they did it under, several different governors. Open these beautiful camping parks. I'm still waiting for our legacy park. This was supposed to be our legacy park 20-some years ago, and then Gregoire canned it. It's been crazy. And now we got a parking lot. It's been our legacy. The plan. Washington has a beautiful state park system, but we don't fund it. And this is nuts. But that's the bad side. But let me give you the good side. When I first moved here in 1989, this was DNR property, and they were going to give it to a Japanese developer, but a golf course in there. So do you remember that? Anybody there? So that never happened. And I'm going to go back a little farther. I wasn't here. I'm a history geek. The state, before the whole whoops debacle, was going to put a nuclear power plant there too. So it could have been worse. So enjoy our great park that hasn't been developed yet. But the trail system, because of of Washington Trails Association and one of the mountain bike groups. They've been putting in a nice trail system in there. It's been getting better, and it's not too crowded yet, because once it becomes one of our big destination parks, it will definitely, people will be there. But I'm hoping we'll have a few more parks too. Dungeon of Spit, great place. Do I need to say anything about Dungeon of Spit? You've all been there, right? Yeah, it's great hike. Love it. It's good kayaking too in the bay. Stripe Peak. All right, I should put today's pictures. If you follow me on Facebook, you can see some of the new shots I took today. Again, it used to just be a so-so hike. Now it's a really good hike. Okay, WTA did a wonderful job on it. And someone just wrote to me and said, isn't it all logged over there? Yeah, but 90% of the trail doesn't go through the logged area. It goes through the old growth, and it's only one area to go through. And you know what's great about logging? Views. Okay, so you get some great views. Peabody right here. Okay, so, and it was really cool. And I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, was it Noah? Did he start the storybook idea back then? The poetry walks. Yeah, I call it the storybook because, yeah, but the poetry walks. This is a cool idea. I first saw this concept in Maine many, many years ago. It was on a 6-mile hike. You had to keep doing all the books, following. And it's a great to bring literacy with outdoors to the poetry walk here. It's really good. And, you know, some people are like, oh, it's not wilderness. Well, this is not a wilderness hike. So I definitely see this kind of stuff, you know, in some of our more developed parks and everything, kind of integrating, getting kids interested in, you know, going from book to book and stuff. Wonderful idea. This was one of the first places I saw it in Rio. So I think, you know, commend, it says this library. So nice job. So cool stuff, really cool stuff. And this is one of the few hikes in Olympic National Park you can bring your dog legally. Okay. Don't even get me going on the illegal stuff. Heather Park. This is a tough hike right in your backyard. Really nice, but again, it's just really funky. It's the dry, the geography, the geology, everything. The views are incredible over to, you know, Vancouver Island and beyond. Hurricane Hill, we've talked about that. It's easy to get up there. Lots of cool history up there, but go in the wintertime. Wintertime's cool. Then it's not a paved. Though if you do go in the summertime, you see marmots up there. Lots of good marmots. But I'll tell you one of the cool ways. If you really want to earn Hurricane Hill. Oh, I haven't got there yet. Well, if you want to earn it, you can go up the Little River. But I prefer, this is a good one to do one way, starting at the top and come out. It makes it good. And you cross that river a bunch of times, 7 times, I think. There's old mines down there, and there's some old growth track. But the first part, you know, makes some good hike. Good, you go out and back, but do the whole thing from the top. Have someone drop you off or take the shuttle. Do we have shuttles now? Yeah, perfect. Take the shuttle. Grand Ridge. This is what it's this. This is the highest official trail in Olympic. 6,600 feet goes up, and it's all alpine ridge, alpine tundra. Views, views, views. Love this hike. Anybody not been on this? Oh, what are you waiting for? That's one of my 100 classics too. So is this one down below, the Grand Valley. And there's lots of cool things, history too, and there's lots of misnomers too, like badger and moose. And moose was a ranger's horse, and badger was someone who didn't know the difference between a marmot and a badger. Someone from Wisconsin probably, but Aaron Rodgers. Sorry. So I'm a New England Patriots fan, anyways. Yes, let me have it because the Patriots stink right now. Okay. Okay, but I was really hoping that Detroit was going to go to the Super Bowl this last time. Grand Valley, wonderful area, and this is the fall. You go up to Grand Peak, really nice area. And then the Elwha, talking about this again, watch this change. It's amazing. And what's cool, I'm actually going to go in there tomorrow. I haven't been in a while. When I first scouted it out, the bottom of the former Lake Mills looked like St. Helens. It looked like all the action. It was incredible. And so then the looping was coming, everything was starting. So I'm really interested to see how much it's grown up a lot. Because you grow trees here, it's a limit. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, the changes. And there's the old lake, if you never saw the old lake. I'm so glad that when they did breach, they kept some of the old part of it, because I love the Art Deco style and everything. Keep some of that historic building and let it rip. Okay, but we were talking about they should have done something with the road ahead of time. Boy, where were the road engineers there? They should have had that. But it's cool to see that river run free again. It really is. Okay, then where are we? Oh, so at Lake Mill, you have 2 trails over there now. Okay, and they had to change the names. So the old Lake Mills Trail, the Smoky Bottom Trail. So which is historically what was called before the lake was built and all that. So again, really cool seeing the changes here. And that's another thing I never thought I'd see too, these dams coming out and seeing the change. And again, the restoration. I look forward to seeing a lot of these logged areas of the south part of the Olympics coming back to life. We can do it. You know, it's just whether we have the political will and desire to do it. Here we go. If you're into history, and you really want to do Hurricane Hill 1950 style, okay, this is how you have to do it. Wolf Creek Trail. This was the original road that went up to Hurricane Hill before the heart of the hills here was built. So this is the old, and so it is long. It's a long way. So you may want to do it one way. It's like 8.5 miles. But because it was a road, it's graded. So it's great for running, or it's great for skiing when there's snow on it coming down. And the other thing is too, you're not going to see anybody on pick, like, why do that when I can drive up to the top? But there's gonna be lots of deer. There's gonna be those Olympic marmots out there. So it's a cool alternative. And then the Elwha, which used to be a short hike, is now much longer. Though use your mountain bike. You can bike the road to get in there, and it started there. Lots of history, of course, in this area too. Good, easy camping, beginner camping if you want to stay. Lots of elk. You know the spiel. Lillian River is an add-on to go up there. The trail was originally going to go all the way up and beyond. Never did. So it's a beautiful trail that's built and it just ends. Beautiful, beautiful trees in there. Yeah, if you haven't been in there. And then over here, just Olympic Discovery Trail. Again, watching this. If there's any mountain bikers or trail runners, this thing has been a real plus. Really cool stuff. Watching this come through, and then watching the whole North Olympic Discovery Trail just being built. It's incredible. It's one of the longest. I think it is the longest paved rail trail now in the state. You know, it continues. So right here. So anybody, am I right? Longest? I think it's the longest paved rail trail. Barnes Creek. A lot of people just go to Merrimack Falls, but keep going. Go up there. You will lose the people and lots of big trees. And if you really want to go, I talk about Aurora Ridge up there. You won't see anybody up there. I mean, they're hard hikes, but you won't see anybody. Mount Mully, this is a great hike too. I remember for so long too, this was kind of just out there, this whole stretch of the Olympic. And then there was a bunch of Forest Service people in Forks. And so this was late 80s when there's still money being for recreation. They came up with the idea to start developing these trails in there. And they built this beautiful network of trails that's since been added to. So again, it usually melts out pretty early. Great views. I mean, views of Mount Olympus, the coast when it's clear. It's just, I love it. Just great hikes in here. Koshinanich, same thing. There was the replica cupola fire lookout used to be up there. It's gone. It's just a platform now. The views are good, but there's a connector trail that goes between that and Muller too. And same thing, try to get, you guys live close enough, get a couple of these so you can do one ways in here. So it makes really nice ridge hikes. And then Aurora Ridge, I was talking about. Anybody been on Aurora Ridge? Yeah, okay, because you look at it, you drive, it's right there. But yeah, it's like this high to get up there. It's mostly treed, but there are views. There are views on the way. And it's a lonely country. It really is. It's just you and the cougars out there. They're really cool stuff. Aurora Ridge, Eagle Lake. Eagle Lakes aren't much of anything. They're mosquito breeding grounds, but the trees are beautiful. The trees are spectacular up there, and solitude. And again, everybody's up Solduck. You've got all this to yourself. They're not up the North Fork of the Solduck. I'll tell you that right now. This is a fascinating. Who's been on this trail? Okay, cool. So if you've been on this, first of all, what keeps most people away, you have to ford the creek. It's easy to do late in the season. That's so easy now. You do that. If you're following the trail, it's an amazing built trail. And you're like, my God, this thing's going to go all the way up the ridge. Well, it was supposed to until World War II broke out. And then the work crews had to go fight the bad guys. And we never had any money in the 50s to fix the trail. I've gone cross country to connect it. It's a little rough to get in there, but it would be an amazing backpacking and extra. So if we can just get that 2 miles built in there, it'll be great. So you could go up there, you can bushwhack to get over that ridge. The trail's incredible. You will not see anybody in there. You will see lots of people here. But it's great. I mean, it's beautiful. It's one of the most spectacular waterfalls. The trees are just incredible in here. I just love the Solduck area. Deer Lake, really nice. If you've been up the high divide, I never get sick of the high divide. I've done it overnight day hike running. I love it. It doesn't matter how you do it. It's just wonderful. So for day hiking, Deer Lakes, it's 8 miles round trip. That's fair. This gets a little tougher for day hiking, but if you're strong, 16 miles, get up to Bogosiel and then down. It's just incredible. Who's not been on the High Divide? Got to get up there. It's one of my 100 classics. I never get sick of it. It's amazing. Every time I do it, I run into people I know too, because it's like a fan club. Everyone loves the High Divide, great place. And then Oyster Lake Appleton, in my original book, I'd have you coming up from Boulder Creek, but that's no longer the way to do it because the road is a long way. You come up from Solda, and it's long, but the trail's nice. It's a nice trail. Old road is well graded, and you're not going to see many people. Matter of fact, if you get to High Divide and all the permits are done, the rangers are going to send you over this way. And it's not bad. And I did the cat divide this last fall. Oh my God, that thing's brutal. But this is where you come out. I see some heads up. This is where it comes out. It's only 5 miles. It's going to take you 5 hours to do it, but it's incredible. So if you're looking for an adventure, there's some good stuff up here. This is an easy hike. Mink Lake. It's just low. There's an old shelter in there, and then beautiful trees. The lake isn't much of anything, but the trees are gorgeous. And the other thing is you'll have solitude in there. You want real solitude? Who's been on these trails? I love one person. I love it. Have you done all the hikes in my book? I love it. Okay. I need to come up with an award for that. So what's fascinating, years ago, before the roads were built and everything, the rangers had these trails going along the North Snyder Jackson Trail, went along the boundary between ranger stations, guard stations along the boundary in there. And the trails haven't got much use. They're trying to get, but they are incredible. And these are best because they're linear type trails to do them one way, because otherwise it's tough. You get across, and then you got to do some fording. So again, you do it late in the season when that's the Kalela. It's shin deep. You do it now, it's going to kill you. But the trees in there are just incredible, and you're going to go through these areas again. Really, are not that far from Forks. Just but nobody goes there. I mean, if Twilight was written about it, it might have changed, but nobody's in there. So Bogosiel is wonderful, and you can go up there quite a way. There's little nature trails in the beginning, and again, you can see this was shot late in the season. You can go out on the bars. There's always lots of elk out there, so great area. South Fork Ho, again, it's off the beaten track. It's on DNR land. Not a very long trail, but it's got some neat stuff in there, cedars and okay. I was first introduced to that area when I was at the UW. I took a course with Jerry Franklin, Old Growth Forestry, the guru, and he took us out there. Oh God, it was a long drive from Seattle. Took us out there to do some study. It was amazing, and I just got so enamored with that whole area, with the Clearwater and all that. So some cool stuff. Which brings me to this area. The Queets is incredible. Who's been up the Queets? Oh, a few more. Yeah, you gotta want that one to get up there. But first, this is how it starts. so most people will get to the trailhead and go, I'm not doing it. And you can only do it safely, just a couple of months out of the year. So what was it, 2015, 26, the year we didn't have any rain or snow. It was an awful year for the climate. It was a great year for fording rivers. So I did a bunch of them, got back. I'm going to take advantage of all these things. But I actually got into the old Smith, the old hunting camp. I found that too, because you have to go up about, I can't, it's in the book, 5 miles. Then you have to ford again. But that second ford is easier. It's wide. And then you got to crash and brush to get in the field, and you're going to find the old hunting cabin. There's a couple of bed springs. There isn't much left to it. You'll see it. It's just fascinating. It was a hunting camp in there for decades. So there's a lot. And the thing is too, the eastern part of the state, all the mining towns, things last out there because it's hot and dry. Not here. Things rot so fast out here. So it's really tough trying to find a lot of these old relics. They're gone in no time. You guys must change your roofs a lot in this town, right? Sam's River. So the Queets, because you have to, you've got to ford it. Sam's is easy. It's a 4-mile loop. You can do part of the river, go around. So what's interesting, I was talking to some colleagues of mine, right? And we're talking about, we were originally talking about Native people and reconciliation, but then we started talking about national parks. And I started thinking, there's been some incidents, and we never do this now, where the national park system probably actually used eminent domain to take land. And there was people that were settled And this, of course, was not very popular. And I know of a couple of cases, the Queets was one of the corridors that was done. And it was in the 1950s that the whole idea was to have a corridor along the rainforest from the mountain to the ocean. So, I mean, as a park, it was a noble idea, right? But there's already settlers. So first, the settlers displaced the indigenous people, and then the Park Service displaced the settlers. So it's just interesting again. And I'm not making any judgments on this stuff. I'm just telling you, I mean, this is history. But we learn from this stuff, and the Park Service won't do that now. And I know the Canadian Park Service did it too a couple of times. Instead, we were talking about now working with indigenous peoples and some of the people out in the area. But there's lots of old. Matter of fact, when you get into the Queets and you get upriver, there's old barns and foundation. I mean, there was people living up there and everything, and they had to leave. So generally, if the park wants to buy something, it's through people want to do it. That's how we do things now. Quinault, great area. This is crazy. Now you can see this was obviously taken in the summer, because if you're in the wintertime, I would be up to my knees in water. Floods are there. What's the annual rainfall? The Quinault is 100. God, I used to roll this off my 140 inches. That sound right? It's something ridiculous. Something ridiculous. 173. That is some serious rain. I don't know how people live there. That's too much rain. I was down in Southern California last week because I needed some sunshine, and it's actually been raining down there too. Everything's green down there right now. But when it's not raining, it is green. It is beautiful, and there's a whole neat network of trails in here. And there are some cool waterfalls and some big Sitka spruce and neat stuff if you haven't been down there. And it's a long haul from there. The Pony Bridge, Quinault, that's a great little easy hike. The Enchanted Valley is a backpack for most people, but you can just go a couple miles up to here. And good thing that bridge is there, because there's no way you're fording that thing. And then the North Fork of the Quinault, you go up there, some hikes. There used to be, again, the history, there was a lodge several miles up. I mean, it's amazing. There's a whole period in our history that people are building these lodges in places. It's crazy, all across the country. I'm hiking these places. I can't believe there's stuff here and here and here. And there's very little of it left now. We just try to keep telling about it in books and in the library, their collections and everything. Three Lakes, this is the beginning of the Skyline Trail, which is a backpack, it's a long way. But the first part, you can go up to Three Lakes. It's you don't want to go up there during mosquito breeding season. But some beautiful bog plants in there and everything. It's a beautiful growth. If you've never been in there. And then the Kestner Homestead. This is a national park site too, because part of the parks we were talking about too is preserving the heritage and the culture, not just the natural areas, and how this all came to be. So we can learn about some of the first non-native people who lived in the area, settlers. And then this is also one of my 100 classic hikes. I've been up this several times. I love this hike, and I meet a lot of people who've never been. Who has not been up Colonel Bob? Oh, it is definitely worth it. I'm telling you right now. I have one assignment for you. Do Colonel Bob this year. It's great. There's two ways to get up there. It used to be three. There's two ways to get up there. One is very long, beautiful growth forest, and then the other one is short and steep. They're both good hikes. That view is incredible, and when it's clear, and you want to make sure it's clear, don't drive all the way down there and do it. Not only are you going to see Lake Quinault, which is right below, you're going to see the ocean. You could see St. Helens. You could see Gray's Harbor, the coast, the Satsum Towers. I mean, it's unbelievable, the view up there. It's great. This is a wilderness area. It's one of the few wilderness areas on this part of the Olympic coast. It's a small area, but it is spectacular. Another spectacular hike just below it. This is in a roadless area. This is an area that conservationists, I think, in the Wild Olympics, trying to get this protected. I love this hike. At the end, you see me. I'm holding up a 2 and a 5. That's the 25th ford of the river. You just wear running shoes. You wait till end of August. The trail is pretty much for horses or people like me. And we did it one way. It's a long hike. You start up really high, the headwaters of the West Fork comes up, and you just keep fording the river. And I do it a hot day. It's so refreshing. It is one of the funnest hikes I've done. You go through the Campbell Grove, it's beautiful old growth in this camp. Anybody been on it? Okay. Done my work. All right, the coast. All right, good stuff. Of course, Olympic has a wild coast. This is not part of it. The road runs up, but the road is up here on the bluff. It feels wild, and it's easily accessible. So if you've never tasted the Olympic coast, start there. And you can go up to the mouth of the Hoe. Then you can start going to the little wilder beaches in here, the second and third. So these are all day hikes. These are easy, not the big treks. I talk about the big coastline in my backpacking book. Rialto is wonderful. It's just spectacular. The shark teeth, and not as much anymore. 10 years ago, you'd have teenage girls from New Jersey out there looking for werewolves. Not as much. That has finally run its. Has it? Are they still have they still have the fork stuff? They still. God, good for them making money on that thing, huh? It wasn't the writer. She never even been to Forks or something. She just liked the name of it or something like that. And I write these books. I still have to work. I don't get it. I got to put werewolves in my books or something. I always say that the key to a successful book, I need to write a story about a teenage conservative dog. Okay. So I got to hit all those targets and I'll have a bestseller. I love the Ozette Triangle. Wonderful. It's in my 100 classic hikes. You can see petroglyphs, know where they are, because in the tides, when the tide's high, you're going to miss them. I have missed them before. It's really cool, the story. And you'll notice there too, it's in the 1700s, the macaw had already had contact with Europeans. The way our it's funny, the overland people had come, but trade was the shore. So again, when Lewis and Clark came down the river and all that, and they met there were Clatsop people that spoke English. They had already been trading with English seafarers, and so there's probably some speaking Spanish and Russian too. I mean, everyone's out in that area. So a lot of intersections of cultures in this area. And then Shai, and you have to go to the Macaw Nation to access this. Really spectacular beach. This is one of the last parts that was added to the Olympics in the Carter administration in the 1970s, when this part was added here. Really spectacular. And then on the Macaw Nation, Cape Flattery. First time I did this was many, many moons ago. That road was horrible, and the trail was horrible. And now, I got to pay $10. It's worth it for a Macaw pass, and I have a paved road to get there, and the trail's been rebuilt. It's really spectacular, and you get that view of Tatoosh Island and all kinds of pelagic birds down there. And if you haven't done this, you got to do it. And that's just some of the hikes. But from what I've gathered is that you have some hiking to do. So I hope that I've enticed you to drive more than 30 miles from the North Slopes here. So there's lots of good stuff. If you don't have my book, I would love for you to have one. I have all the details you need for these hikes, 136 in all. $18. I will eat the tax. I'm only taking cash, but I do Venmo too, just no credit cards. Then please visit me in the virtual world. You could see I was at Elbow Creek yesterday and Striped, and I'll be doing some more exploring tomorrow if you want to see what's going on out there. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I've written 26 books. So I have some of them with me. Ones you might be interested in: the San Juan and Gulf Islands, Central, North Cascades, the Urban Trail, easy hikes, urban. So this area, Kitsap Peninsula, it's got some good winter stuff, Olympia. And then for next year, what's coming out is my Urban Trail, Vancouver, British Columbia. You guys are going up that way. And then all my books I have, there's the price. The Urban's $15, $20 for the other ones, and the Classics $20. I'm in no hurry to go home. I live in the Skagit Valley. I'm staying here tonight, so I would love to take questions. And thank you for coming out tonight. Yeah. And we can just pass the mic if anyone has any questions. Unless you can yell. I guess we have to pass the mic. We'll be like a rapping MC here. It's gonna make me move too, but I like to run. The question is, how many miles I hike a year? Typically about 2,300 is what I do. I run most of them a lot. I'm an ultra runner too, which is also how I cover so much ground. Because I could never write so much if I was only doing a few miles a day. And I'm hoping that I'm going to keep doing this till I can't do it anymore. So the joke, I want to be able, I was telling how I want to die. I want to be that, if you guys do the North Olympic Discovery Marathon, I want to be that old guy that everyone's waiting for that crosses the finish line and just die right there. So, it's all planned, so don't worry if I go that way. Any other questions?
I'm curious as to whether you carry bear spray or anything like that with you.
Only in British Columbia. Seriously, I don't carry bear spray here. I do in the Rockies because grizzlies. Although black bears attack too. I've hiked 33,000 miles in the state of Washington, and I have encountered lots of bears. Knock on wood, I've not had any issues. The thing is, be bear aware. I love bears. It's just knowing, and I've hiked in grizzly country too, and I've had 2 grizzly encounters that worked out well for both the grizzly and me. But just, if you're alone, which I like to do a lot, when I see bear sign and everything, I start singing a little louder, clapping my hands if I see sign. That if you're with people, usually they'll keep bears, usually stay away. Just, the 2 times when mom's got the cubs, if you see the cubs, just make sure the cubs are there and mom's not there, because never good. And then the other time is, and I've only seen this happen a couple of times in the 34 years I've lived out here, when the berry crop fails. And when it happens, those bears are hungry and angry. I'm angry too, and I'm hungry. And that could be an issue. But generally, no, they're and the Olympics amazing too, because I see so many bears. I mean, it's rare that I'm in the national park because there hasn't been any hunting there since the 30s. So they have no fear, right? Most of the bears have. But again, as long as those berry crops are there, they're not interested in Italian food. They love the berries. So I'm more worried about aggressive unleashed dogs. I've had more issues with aggressive unleashed dogs than cougars, bobcats, bears. Yeah, alligators. I've hiked down in Georgia. Any other questions? Yeah. Absolutely. So Merlin had said I should put a plug in for the WTA. Who is a member of the WTA here? The Walk-in Transit Authority? The World Tennis? No, I know how many WTAs there are. The Washington Trails Association. You cannot hike in the state and not be a member. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. I'm not being paid to say that. I've been a member since the 90s. The organization's been around since the 60s, but it's really taken off in the last few years. Very, very inclusive organization about getting people out, all kinds of people. And they do all the trail work that the Park Service and the Forest Service and state parks and county don't have the resources. And they work with these organizations. And again, I was at Stripe Creek today. And why that is the way it is now is because of WTA. So check them out. Great organization. They have a nice magazine. I write for them. Matter of fact, the editor lives here in Port Angeles. Lots of stuff happening. Great organization. Yeah. There's lots of other good organizations too. Land trusts that are protecting a lot of land too. So get involved if you're not already. Yes.
So I know some of the hikes have changed, like roads being washed out or trails changed since you wrote the book a few years ago. Any plans on writing a 3rd edition or adding trails to it that aren't in this book?
So the question is, will I do a 3rd edition? The answer is yes. Will I be adding anything? I'll be adding a few things, but to tell you the truth, there has not been a lot of, I put 136 hikes in that book. There has not been that many new trails added. I'd love to see, Dean, when we get some new trails in the national park. I would love to add, but just a lot of updating. Of course, fires always happen. That changes things, washouts. But here's the good news too. There is going to be a 3rd edition, but this is second. There's not. Most of the stuff is pretty viable. There hasn't been too many changes. That's rare. I just finished a Columbia River Gorge book. That's my newest book. Actually, it's coming. It's out next month. It was a nightmare. I had to pretty much rewrote the book because of the fires down there and so many changes. So consider yourself lucky here. This is hasn't been. It rains a lot, but doesn't burn as much.
What's your preferred method for water purification if you're on like a 8 or 10-day hike?
I use the Catadine. It's the little squeeze tube. It's great. It's quick. So, and I use that because I trail run too. So if I'm covering great distances, I'm not carrying a lot of water in the stream, and just go there, fill it up, squeeze, drink. Catadine. Yeah, it's one of the best. I've tried. It's wonderful. There's all kinds. Everyone will swear by different. I love that thing. The bottle itself only weighs a couple ounces. So if you're doing lightweight, and it's so convenient. Yeah. Though the stick's good and all that, yeah. It's this, you squeeze it through a filter. Yeah. Now it's not going to take out, some of the really nasties, but I'm not that worried about those. I mean, I'm not drinking water in Chernobyl or something like that. Yeah, where at? Oh.
Thanks, Dean. So somebody online shared that the WT app also now has a snow cover layer. I know that I've used the app before, so that's lovely to share. One question is, I want to do a lot of hikes you talk about, but I'm worried about car access, road quality, and break-ins. Are there routes that are better suited for less confident hiker drivers like me?
Yeah, good questions, good concerns. Like if you've been hiking in the area for many decades, you'll notice the roads have deteriorated badly. Mostly back in the 80s, a lot of the Forest Service, this is not the park, the Forest Service budget, the cut, and there was a lot of money. So when a road would wash out, it was immediately rebuilt because there was timber allotments and everything. So what happened after the 90s, it's all gone. And these roads, and some of these roads are just downright dangerous. They're growing over. There are organizations that are trying to get these open, and it's an issue that WTA has been bringing up most, because what good are all these trails if we can't get to it? And not all of us are driving, 4x4s and all that. So yeah, it is a concern. On the peninsula, most of the stuff that I talk about, the access isn't that bad. You're on paved roads or decent roads. So more in the Cascades, this becomes an issue. I want to write a book too on trailheads I've seen Priuses at. So it's amazing how some of these, like I get in like, oh my God, I can't believe a Prius got up here. So with a little ingenuity, you'd be surprised when you get that. Break-ins, sadly, is another story that, again, you hear people talk, and back, if you go back, break-ins were happening in the 80s too. And in some areas are better now than then. And what I find in general is that, well, one, not making yourself a target. Always do that. What I like to do is I find the most expensive cars in the parking lot and I park next to them. And then when my son was young, I'd leave dirty diapers in the car and then fast food wrappers. But no, just don't. I'm always surprised. I'll get to a trailhead and I'll just look. People think I've cased the car. I'm like, I can't believe someone just stashed a pocketbook underneath the seat. I can see it. I mean, if I was nefarious, it's gone. So I see that all the time. People still are doing that kind of stuff. I'm not victim shaming because I wish we lived in a perfect world that we could do that, but we don't. So don't make yourself a victim. But the thing is, I also find was one, don't be obsessed with it. Be smart in that. There are areas that definitely get hit more than others, and you can become aware of that. And if something feels not right, go someplace else. What I find on the Olympics, as in the Cascades, there's certain areas that are hotbeds for it. They seem to be continuous, like the Duckabush was notorious. Though I understand that the people that are doing it are finally been arrested or something. I don't know. But what you find, if you go to your WTA trip reports, you can see, because people will talk about, and you can call the Forest Service, the Park Service, and find out. But I find it goes in waves, because generally, and this is happening all the time, it's not like there's thousands of people out there. It's usually a couple of people hitting everything. There was one in Aberdeen just a couple of years ago. They were arrested. They would just drive around, just hitting everything. And when they finally arrested these culprits here, there was like no trailhead break-ins. So I find lots of times is that there'll be a surge, and then all of a sudden, nothing, because they got the person or whatever. So I try to keep up with it. I try to talk about it, but it's not, again, just being smart. And there's alternatives you can do. And I tell people this too, like the gorge on the Oregon side, Portland is notorious for car break-ins. There's tricks. Like I will park my car at the Bonneville Fish Hatchery. Okay. People over there know, and I just have to walk an extra mile or two or run to get to a trailhead. Never have to worry about my car being busted in there. So there's things you can do like that. Eagle Creek, don't park at the trailhead, park at the campground. There's things you can do, or public transportation or shuttles if it's something. There are I've biked to a trailhead before and stashed back. So there's ways you can in the worst parts you can do it. But lots of times again, it's just a few places being hit. I know it always comes up about the car, and boy, generally, I think now hasn't, probably gonna curse us, hasn't been as bad as some of the past years. Anybody disagree or agree with me? Trying to keep up with I haven't been following too much in the Olympics about what's going on out here right now. The Cascades, not too bad. Yeah.
To kind of put things in perspective, I worked as a park ranger at Solduck for 11 years. And I was in charge of the Solduck backcountry, high country, Seven Lakes Basin, High Divide and whatnot. And that large parking area there is oftentimes full in the summer. And in the 11 years that I worked there, there was not one car break-in. I worked at Ozette for 11 years, large parking area there. And that gets tons and tons of backpacking, the most popular backpacking area in the park. And in those 11 years, there was one break-in. So put things in perspective. Now, areas that are closer to town, such as the Elwha, they have some incidents, but areas that are more isolated, don't worry.
I find in general, those popular places and national parks where there's rangers, it's just a fee involved usually. So, I travel all over. I was just in Southern California. I was in Arizona hiking. I had no broken glass. I'm hiking 20 miles outside of LA, and there's all these people out and about, and I didn't even worry about it. So again, there's lots of activity, people, eyes there all the time. You're pretty good. If you have to pay, to get into a state park or something, which a lot of these areas are, it's great. It's like a $10 insurance policy to get into these places. So I know, like when I backpack in the South part of the Olympics, at Staircase, I park there overnight, leave the car. I've never worried about it there. Wouldn't do that on the Duckabush. So when I talk about doing Lake Lacrosse, they say, go in through Staircase. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh, last one.
When you're on a day hike, what do you take with you? You're going out for 10, 12 miles. What do you pack with you?
So in general, like usually it's always in my backpack, enough food, obviously. So always have, and usually I enough food that I hike out with food. So if I have to, if something happens, I have a first aid kit. I've got extra layer shell, clothing in there. If I'm alone in a remote area, I have a beacon, a locator that's off, but I'll turn it on if I need it. See what else am I get? Water filter. If I'm in a more remote area and I'm alone, I'll probably have a headlamp in there just in case I come out late. Certainly during the winter months, there's always a headlamp in there. Out here, it's going to be a rain jacket. It's going to be sunglasses, sunscreen. Bugs don't bother me as much. I probably should use bug dope in there. I do in some hikes, but I forget it half the time. Toilet paper. If I'm backpacking, a trowel to dig it. Maps. I use paper map. I have a Garmin that has every hiking trail in North America that I wear. But I also have a paper map because I like to look at the whole picture too. So that's always good to have. So that I have the GPS system and the paper map. Trying to think if I'm forgetting anything. Notebook and pen. I'm always taking notes. Phone for camera, for photos. Not phone for relying on if I get in trouble. Phone for pictures. So yeah. Anybody I'd leave out anything that's essential that anybody carries? My 11th essential, chocolate covered espresso beans. That's 2 of the food groups, caffeine and sugar. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Craig. We have just a little token of our appreciation. It's a Find Your Park water bottle. You find lots of them. And thanks everyone for coming out this evening, and we hope to see you at our April Perspectives. Thank you.